Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My dear students, our lecture today is related to a very important idea in language teaching, especially for you as students, teachers. This idea is teaching grammar. Today we want to understand what's meant by grammar and what is the most important idea that we should keep in mind when teaching grammar. First, grammar is the scientific statement of principles of good usage, which concerns with the relation of words in the sentence. Another definition to grammar is that the way language manipulates and combines words in order to form longer units of meaning, or it is the way words are put together to make correct sentences. So, in general, what we understand by the word grammar is that it is the way words are put together to make correct sentences. We want to know the way grammar is introduced when we teach grammatical structures. So, what is meant by the grammatical structure? The grammatical structure is any specific instance of grammar, which is, and in this case, it is called structure. Examples of structure would be like the past tense, the present tense, the tenses in general, nouns, plural nouns, countable and non-countable nouns, the combination or the comparison of adjectives and so on. So any aspect which is related to grammar is known as grammatical structures. Now we need to understand the way in which teachers should think about the presentation of grammar structures. Traditionally, teachers believed in the importance of grammar and the teacher's role as explainer. So the teacher's role as explainer is a traditional role. Teachers understand grammar as language and how we use it. At the same time, they believe it implies learning of rules and then control the practice of these rules with little or no communication practice. Of course, this idea is rejected and started to be questioned. That's why we have to change the way we think about the grammar. Grammar doesn't have to be like this and shouldn't be. Teachers' knowledge about language and language learning should be directed towards understanding what students need to know when they are learning a language. This is related to understanding meanings that learners need to understand and express. We should provide them with meanings and with grammatical structures to express this meaning in a grammatical way. Nowadays, there are many different views about what learners need to learn and how best to go about teaching it. Although language teachers should not ignore the fact that knowledge of grammar rules is essential for the mastery of language, since we cannot use words unless we know how they should put together, at the same time, teachers should understand that explanation and active teaching started to be questioned in language teaching context. So, explanation and active teaching, in which the teacher takes the most important role as explainer, started to be rejected. And what is the alternative? The alternative is that learners need to have exposure to the language. They need to notice and understand items being used. So they try to use the language themselves in practice. Thus, they need to understand the form, meaning, and use of the item. In this case, you as teachers should keep in mind that presentation and explanation of grammatical structures during the lesson is not enough. It should be followed by understanding meaning and giving the students the opportunity to use these grammatical sentences in meaningful communication or in communication activities. It's better for learners to observe rules intuitively through communicative activities than the use of grammatical exercises. In this case, learning of grammar should be seen as one of the means of acquiring a thorough mastery of language as a whole, not as an end in itself. According to this, we should understand that our aim is not to teach grammar, but our aim is to help the students to understand the grammatical structures and to be able to use them in meaningful communication. Teachers should focus on students' ability to use grammar structures accurately, meaningfully, and appropriately. That's appropriate to the situation in which communication takes place. Knowledge of grammar is a fifth skill that students can use productively, not only as an area of knowledge. So, it is important that the students learn grammatical structures and use such knowledge productively. They should produce language with correct grammar. When teaching grammar, there are three dimensions of teaching grammar that you should keep in mind. Number one, form, which is how the grammatical structure is formed, and this is related to accuracy and syntax, the structure of the sentence. Two, meaning, what does it mean? What does this grammatical structure mean? And this is related to meaningfulness, what you say should be, or what the students say should be meaningful. And in this case, it is related to semantics. And finally, use. The students are supposed to know when and why the grammatical structure is used in order to use the different grammatical structures appropriately. Also, we have the use of grammatical structure within authentic materials. What is meant by authentic use of grammar? This refers to oral or written activities which focus on real-life communication. They focus on fluency. So in this case, the teacher should use the grammatical structure in natural situations in which the students use the grammatical structures in real life situations in order to help the students to master the grammatical structures naturally and to use them for communicating in different situations and for different purposes. Another important idea that the students should use the grammatical structures in communicative activities. What do we mean by communicative activities? We mean situations where students use language to communicate real meaning rather than just practicing language. So the students are not supposed to practice the grammatical structures in individual sentences only, but they are supposed to practice what they have learned by using different communicative activities. Finally, the teacher should provide the students with contextualized examples. Contextualizing means that your examples are explaining the situation so that students can fully make sense of your specific example. So, in this case, the example should be related to a specific context. In this case, we should refer as much as we can to the activities introduced in the text, which introduce in most of the cases contextualized examples of the grammatical structure. Thank you very much. That's all for our lecture today.